Hello, and welcome to Nale Yoga, the podcast with Yoga Nidra journeys for deep rest and more. I'm Ruthie Eisenberg, and today I'm so excited to share with you a conversation with a very special guest. Uri Kelman is a meditation guide, spiritual practitioner, and a father of 4 children who beautifully blends wisdom from Buddhism, Taoism, Kabbalah, and the Jewish tradition. His work is all about presence, emotional honesty, and opening the heart. And if you've ever listened to his meditations, you'll know how grounding and how wholesome his teachings feel. Uri draws from his own journey of healing, including meditation, breathwork, and reflected practice to support others in reconnecting with gratitude and clarity. He believes that spirituality is not about escaping life, but about learning to meet each moment with awareness and compassion. Through guided practices and heartfelt reflections, Uri invites others to slow down, release what no longer serves them, and trust the natural unfolding of life. His teachings are grounded, relatable, and shaped by a deep respect for both ancient traditions and modern experiences of growth, love, and loss. And having personally enjoyed some of his meditations, I can attest that they're excellent, and I hope that you guys will enjoy this conversation. Hey, Uri, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm so excited that you're here. And maybe we can start our chat with you sharing a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in meditation and breath work.
Sure. So my name's Uri. I currently live in Israel in Karmei Gat. I can probably see you from my window because you live next to me. Uh,
That's great.
um, I've been in Israel for 9 years, originally from Los Angeles. I am divorced with 4 amazing kids who live part-time with me, part-time with my ex. And I was married for 14 years. And my journey to meditation actually started 3 years ago when I was going through my divorce. So I was trying to find a way to cope with the trauma, cope with the change of what was going on, of the family dynamic changing, me changing after such a long marriage. So I have a friend who used to live in Israel. He was born in Israel. Now he lives in Los Angeles. Uh, and he lived in Costa Rica at one point. And he was a friend that I met at work. And so when I was going through the divorce, he was really my only friend that I had at the time, outside of like friends from my ex-wife. And I called him and I said, I'm going through something right now. I need to go over to your house. I'll tell you what's going on when I get there. So I got to his house. He lived in Caesarea, which is over an hour from where I live. And I just gave him a big hug and just started crying. I told him I'm getting a divorce. And he stayed in a very positive state with me. And we started to talk. And he asked me if I've ever done meditation. I'm like, maybe a little bit, but not really. So he started to teach me about what it is to meditate, what it is to be mindful, teaching me about breath work. And that just started my whole journey of just being more mindful on a day-to-day basis, being more present, and really taking meditation to a point now where I've learned so much that I really want to guide people and teach people to meditate. And I have in a non-professional way, but with friends and with other people. And I've seen a really amazing reaction from people that I've guided through meditation. So that's my journey so far.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And I can attest because I've also listened to some of your meditations on Insight Timer, and I've been to one meditation in person. And I think you have a very calming, very good presence and a very good meditation voice. I really enjoyed your meditations. So, yeah. And, and it's very interesting what you're sharing about your story, because a lot of people try meditation, but they notice, like, as beginners, the mind goes all over the place. It's hard to concentrate. Then they start judging their thoughts, start feeling more anxious, and come to the conclusion that they're a bad meditator and meditation is not for them. And I'm wondering, what was it like for you at the beginning of learning meditation, and how did you get over, or if you've even had any of these challenges yourself, and how did you overcome those initial challenges and continue with the practice?
So anytime I had any challenges with this, I just reminded myself not to judge the meditation, not to judge myself. And my friend would always tell me that meditation is it's not something that goes away. When you meditate and like you don't meditate for a while, it's not like you lose the experience. It's not like you have to practice like going to the gym. You have to practice, and if you don't go to the gym, then you'll lose muscle. It's not the same thing. It compounds. So you can pick it up whenever you want and still have all that experience that you have. And one thing that really helped me to kind of have a basis of meditation, like my meditation 101, is listening to a meditation by Alan Watts. And it's called Listen, and it's on YouTube. And the basic thought behind this meditation was to first start off by listening. So just being aware of all the sounds around you, being aware of just everything that's going on around you when it forms sound, and not to judge sounds, and just kind of let the sounds play with your eardrums however they want to. And then after that, we have sounds in our head, which are thoughts, and those can kind of disturb us. So when we treat our thoughts the same as the sounds outside of just noise, they start to blend together, and you start to let go, and you start to not judge outside sounds or so-called inside sounds, and just let it all blend together. And then after that, you start to be aware of your breath. And when you're aware of your breath in the beginning, you just kind of notice it and not try to do any breath work. Just notice your natural breathing. And then when you start noticing it, you start to breathe deeper, and you start to breathe with more intention. So that's my basic guide for meditation, for starting meditation, to get to the meditative state, is just being aware of your surroundings, listening, and focusing on your breath.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you're saying. And I'm also wondering, how would you even define meditation? Uh, it, I've
Mm.
heard many different definitions for that, and I'm wondering, what is yours?
I have two kind of definitions. One, meditation, I believe, is the act of being present,
Mm.
fully present. People say, I can meditate when I hike in nature, which you can. I can meditate when I'm painting a picture, which you can. It's all meditative states. When you're following your passion and you're staying present in the moment and not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past, just being really in the present moment, that's the state of meditation.
How would you differentiate that from mindfulness, though? This is something that I've learned through the yoga teacher trainings, is that the state of meditation, it's a unique state, and most of what we're doing is trying to when we say we're meditating, is trying to mindfully concentrate. And it's kind of like we're like going through the airport, and we are waiting by the gate. And then meditation, it's a state that you fall into, and it's like you're on the airplane already when you're in a state of meditation. But I'm wondering, for you, like, how do you differentiate meditation from mindfulness? Is it the same thing? Are there distinctions that you make?
They're very similar. For me, meditation is the intentional act of stillness, of being aware in this moment, of just of everything that's going on, but being still with it. Mindfulness for me is how you react to search situations in your life. You act in a mindful way. So if you have someone that's disturbing you in some way, how do I react to it?
Mhm.
Do I react to it out of fear? Do I react to it out of love? And really just kind of focus on like what resonates for me and what would make me a happier and more delightful person when interacting with whatever comes. And mindfulness also is about always staying in a positive state for me. So when anything that comes to our lives looks like a challenge, when you realize that it's just a teacher for us, it's not there purposely to disturb us, there to teach us a lesson. It might be uncomfortable, the lesson, but it's there to teach us anything that we want or actually need at that time to learn from whatever situation we're in. And often the same lessons will come to us in different forms until we actually learn the lesson. And then you no longer need the teacher. So
Mm.
that that thought process of really being intentional um, with your responses to whatever comes to into your life.
I really like that. So, yeah, so being intentional, and you're defining mindfulness as being reflective and conscious of what you're thinking, what you're doing, how you're reacting and responding. And it sounds like meditation is really just it requires mindfulness by default, but it's maybe like one lane on the mindfulness highway, where you're in this very intentional state of stillness and concentration and presence
Yes,
to the moment aware.
exactly. Exactly. And it is very intentional because when I meditate, at least when I'm guiding meditation, it's a it's an intentional experience for the person that I'm trying to guide because
Mhm.
usually when I start uh, before I start meditating with someone and guiding them, I usually ask them where they are emotionally
Mhm.
and being aware of emotions. Are they sometimes will say, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling whatever the emotion is. So,
Mhm.
okay, notice that emotion and now listen to your body. Where physically in your body do you feel that emotion? Again, intentional. Like I'm being aware and noticing it. And they'll tell me where in their body they feel it. And since I really enjoy and really connect to chakra meditation, I know the chakra that is connected with that emotion and why they're having that emotion in that particular chakra. And then my guidance can allow for them to release, allow for them to soften, allow for them to uh, let go of whatever is not serving them in that moment.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, can this might be interesting to go over the chakras and what emotions they're connected to. Do you think you could like run us through the different chakras and the corresponding emotions?
I can definitely do. I have a very like. There's a lot of people out there that are like these gurus that really know a lot about them. But I can tell you from my experience and how I've learned about them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Just how you've learned about it.
right. So um, you always start at the base of the spine, which is the root chakra. It's the you imagine the color red and associate with the color red, and that is associated with the connection to the earth, to grounding yourself in the present moment, your stability. It's just the base of all of your chakras. And then when you move up into the space right below your navel, which is the sacral chakra, and that's a orange color, and that is connected to creativity, sexuality. There's a lot that that's what's connected to. And then moving up into the solar plexus, your solar plexus chakra, which is yellow, and that's connected to self worth. I actually notice a lot of, and where I feel my anxiety is there, or And that's, I know that has to do with self-worth and knowing how worthy you are as a human being. And a lot of people experience that there. Moving up into the chest is your heart chakra, and that's green. And that, no surprise, is love. And it's, that chakra is, people think it's only about giving love, but it's more about self-love, because you can't give love until you love yourself first. Like, truly give love.
So true.
So that's love. And then moving up to your throat, which is blue, is the throat chakra is connected to your speaking your truth and living your truth, and not being performative to other people and to change who you are and change the way you speak because you think somebody else is going to accept you, is really speaking what truly connects and resonates with you. Moving up to the space between your eyebrows, the third eye chakra, that's a indigo color. And it's very interesting that people might not know that the third eye chakra is connected to a physical part of the brain called the pineal gland. And over time, this gland can actually be calcified through things that you eat and drink, and there's ways to decalcify it, but it's connected to your intellect. It's connected to just your intelligence, your intellect in general, your third eye that opens to the higher consciousness, and knowing that this physical reality is not all there is. There's a spiritual realm also, and that's where it connects to you. And then finally, the crown chakra on the top of your head is a violet color, and that's connection to the divine. That's connected to all that is, to God, to the universe, whatever higher being you connect to, that's the connection. And sometimes these chakras can be blocked. And I always look at the chakra being blocked as like a blackness, a black ball that's surrounding this light that's trying to get out. So when doing chakra meditation, I imagine as kind of letting the light get through the darkness and breaking that apart and then letting that go. So that's all the chakras, the main chakras of the body.
The main 7, right?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, well, I really like what you're sharing there. And yeah, every chakra it's an energetic center. And this is like the column, the pillar of the tree, but then there's also branches that branch out into all these smaller chakras. I think for me, my work is on the throat chakra. That's the one that I've been like really focusing mostly on recently. But I was going to say, with chakras, it's interesting because they're energetic centers. I know that you're also familiar and versed in Jewish spirituality as well. And,
yes.
We have the kabbalistic sefirot. And it's very tempting to map them onto the chakras. And there is some alignment between them. Like, like the sacral chakra is aligned with Yesod, the Malchut is aligned with the root chakra. So there's definitely Tiferet is the heart. So there's definitely some connection between them, but they don't like totally match up.
Right.
So I was just curious if you could speak to that a little bit. What do you think about like the connection between the sefirot and the chakra, and how do they interact? Is there a way to kind of like work with both at the same time, or they come from different systems? So, but they're both energetic centers. So, what do you think about all that?
Well, like you said, there are some alignment, but it doesn't align completely. I believe that there is a global truth, and there's different perspectives to how to get to that truth. So chakras are from Buddhism, Hinduism, and Eastern philosophy. And as you said, the sefirot are from Judaism. So for me, the chakras align with the self, and it's more about like how you interact with your own self and your body. And sefirot for me is more a divine mapping, which you do have overlap because we are divine creatures. Everyone is part of the whole. All is the one, and one is the all. We're all part of God, and God is part of us, and there's no separation. Um, so, with I'm not a Kabbalist at all, but I did learn a little bit um, that when the Bible says that we are created in the image of God, it's referring to that tree of life. Have you ever seen the tree of life with the sparrow? That's what it is. And you have at the top the keter, which is the crown, which is obviously math 1-to-1. You
Right.
have a chakma being of that, and which is in intellect, and you have all the other ones that map to the different traits that a human has, but also more of what God has. And that's how you kind of can reconcile the two of this is the map of how our relationship with God is. Um, and I'm drawn more to the chakras personally because I think it's simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more personal for me. I feel like I can visualize it. I can work with it. It's not so esoteric as sefirot, which is it's so many years of learning Kabbalah. You can get into each one of the sefirot and really dive into it. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it just kind of simplifies it. Like, okay, I know these 7 chakras. I know what they mean to me, and then I can use that to help myself, but also help others getting through whatever challenges they're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how the chakra system it feels more accessible, and it is simple. Everything is like in one column. You can feel energy rising up from one chakra to the next, and I find the chakras to be very accessible. And you're right with the sefirot, they're just more like multidimensional, and
Yes.
I picture like the chakras are kind of like a column, an energetic column, whereas the sefirot, they're like this. I picture them as like Metatron's cube, kind of
Yes.
formation, right?
Yes.
And they're just very multi-dimensional and multi-layered, and also very dynamic as well. So um, I would like to actually see more sefirot in meditations because there's so much material out there on the
Mhm.
chakra, and I think it's wonderful and it's very valuable. But as coming from like the Jewish tradition, I feel like with the sefirot, yeah, they're a little bit more complicated than the chakras, but
Mm.
both systems go very deeply. And
Yes.
I like actually what you said about the chakras being more about relationship with yourself and the sefirot being more about relationship with God. I think that's actually a very nice framing of it.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. And if there is actually, I went to a beautiful meditation in Jerusalem,
Mhm.
um, maybe a year ago now, maybe a couple
Mhm.
years ago. I don't remember, but his name is Rabbi Daniel Katz. Have you heard
Oh
of him?
yeah, he's really good.
So
Yeah.
he's a Kabbalist, and he had a beautiful long meditation with this Sefirot. And if anybody wants to learn more about Sefirot and from a Kabbalist and that meditation that just is really beautiful, you can look him up. He's amazing.
Mhm.
Um, if I could, I'd love to share a story that is very personal to me, but I feel comfortable enough to share. I've shared it with other people about um, meditating with the chakra
Yeah,
initiation,
please
one of my favorite
do.
experiences.
Yeah.
So it was before. So I was with my friend that I said before, and I was at his house and I was doing uh, meditation. And this is before I knew anything about chakras. I really didn't know anything. And I was meditating, and I felt a blockage in my solar plexus, and it felt so heavy and dark, and I was explaining this to him while I was experiencing it, and he asked me, what do you think that is? And I said, I think this is my anxiety. So I physically touch my stomach and I pull out this black ball, like imaginary black ball in front of my face. And I tell him, I'm imagining this black ball here in front of my face, and it's representing my anxiety. And he asked me, what is it there for? And I told him it's there to protect me from being hurt again. I was very hurt after my divorce. But he's like, "So what do you want to do with it?" Like, I want to get rid of it. I don't want it anymore. I can't stand it. Like, okay, before you get rid of it, thank it, say you don't need it anymore, and say goodbye. So I said, thank you, don't need you anymore, goodbye. And it just shattered into a million pieces. And then I felt this divine light coming from my root to my crown, just filling up my entire body. And I just felt like that. It was just the blockage, just like if you had like a block in a drain and it was stopping water from coming out. It just unblocked everything, and I just felt so good afterwards. And since that moment, I've never had anxiety to that level before. I mean, obviously, all have anxiety here and there, but never to that level. And it was such an amazing experience.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's a very powerful experience. And I'm curious. So this sounds like a very big, literally a breakthrough kind of experience where you were able to communicate, really connect with the anxiety part of you. You're able to identify where it is physically in your body. You're able to communicate with it um, and establish a relationship with it. And and then you had this big breakthrough and it shattered into a million pieces. That's amazing. And I'm also wondering, with chakra work, like it's not always so dramatic, right? What do you think? Can chakras get unblocked kind of like slowly and gradually, or is it always like when a chakra gets unblocked, like you can feel it right away and you know it's getting unblocked, it's very obvious and intensive, or can it happen in a more subtle kind of way? What do you
Depends
think?
on it depends on how connected you are to yourself
Hmm.
and noticing yourself. So it can happen either way. You can have these huge breakthroughs like I experienced, or it can be like very subtle release, and being okay with that subtle release and saying, okay, I'm letting a little more light through, a little more light through wherever you feel like you're blocked. So it's whatever works for you, and sometimes people need to have a gradual uh, progression of unblocking a chakra, because maybe having it all at once is too much, it's too intense.
Yeah.
So it really depends on where the person's at. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it. They're both very acceptable. Um, and because it's whatever works for that particular person. Um, but I've definitely noticed working with people that have had blocked chakras that, there's different levels of like, oh, I'm feeling a little better. And some people say, oh, I feel a lot better. I feel calmer, feel lighter. Um, and, and going back to like how an emotion relates to a chakra. So dealing with emotions, if you ever read the book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
I've read parts of it.
Okay. So it's a beautiful book and I recommend it. Um, One of the things he says is about our emotions of observing your emotions as something that's outside of you, and not and no noticing that the emotions aren't you. You're the one observing them. You're the one looking at them. So when you it kind of separates our emotions from who we are as a person, then we can kind of look at it and say, wait, this is a separate thing from me. It's here to teach me something. It's here for a purpose. What can I learn from it? So when we do that, we create a state of like, I'm not connected to this emotion in a way of like permanency. It's not a part of me. It's like when people say, I have anxiety, I have depression, that is a better way of saying I am depressed, I am anxious. Because you're not anxious, you have anxiety, and then you can learn from the anxiety. You have depression, you can learn from depression. You are not depressed. So
Mhm.
just changing the mindset. And it's hard for some people. It's really hard for some people to kind of change their mindset of like what I am experiencing versus what I am.
Mhm.
And if you just look at it as like I am the one observing this, then it just kind of reframes it. And I think it makes it easier to deal with and easier to kind of let go of things that are just not serving you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I really like what you're talking about, de-identifying yourself from the things that you are experiencing, and
Mm.
being able to step back, kind of like jump out of the system and look at things from a higher altitude perspective, through metacognition, and then be able to observe as a witness from a state of compassion and neutrality without getting too attached, because this is, I
Right.
mean, this is the Eastern philosophies talk about this, how our suffering comes from us getting too over identified and too attached to our feelings. And if we can just take a step back, and even like in somatic therapy, they talk about this technique of just naming what your experience is, so that you're not that experience. Saying like, right now, this is what feeling anxious, being stuck in traffic feels like. And that's it. We're just labeling it, but it doesn't mean that it's something is wrong with your personality, or it
Exactly.
doesn't mean we need to get too attached to that feeling.
It's just noticing it. It's just noticing it. And I'm always, and that's a lot of the work from mindfulness, is a lot of it is just noticing, being aware of being aware.
Exactly.
And just, and then just kind of like, oh, I'm feeling anxious right now. Oh, that's interesting. Approaching with curiosity instead of like eating into it and saying, oh, okay. I'm noticing that. I'm noticing it right now, and don't, not even trying to fix it. Just noticing. Because people think I noticed something to fix. You don't need to fix. That could come later. Right now, I'm just noticing it,
Mhm.
and being curious about why it's there.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then things can just naturally kind of play out. The more that we stop fighting them, the more they can just naturally play out. So, I really like that perspective a lot. And, and this is exactly what meditation, it doesn't just get you to that state, but it also trains you to be able to access that state more consistently and more easily. I know that there's some differences between meditation and the practice of yoga nidra. But one thing that they have in common is that they're both they're both about training the whole system, the body, the mind, and the soul, to be able to be present from a state of mindfulness and observation.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's all about being present.
Yeah.
And Alan Watts famously says, and I'll paraphrase, so I'm not sure exactly, but he said, the past and the future are illusions. All we have is the now. And it's, some people have a difficult time reconciling that and saying, no, time exists. So to say time doesn't exist, it's hard for people. But if you look at it from this perspective, if you say, well, the past is an illusion because it only exists in my memories, and when I'm remembering it now.
Hmm.
And so you can kind of reconcile that and say, okay, something happened, but it's happening now in my brain because I'm having that memory. The future is for sure an illusion because
That's
it's it,
imagination.
it's imagination. So when we go into our lives having expectations of something that might happen, then that's where anxiety comes from, in my opinion. It's living in that expectation of a possible future. We
Hmm.
don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And we can definitely learn from what happened in the past. And then depression comes from living in that past,
Hmm.
not just saying, okay, that happened. What's the lesson? I'm staying present. And just being really enjoying the journey of life. So, here in Israel, the drivers here are a little bit crazy,
Yeah.
and they want to get from
A lot,
A to
please.
B. Exactly. They want to get from A to B as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter how fast you're going, you're not going fast enough for them.
Right.
And they'll do anything to get to where they want as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
Instead of saying, hey, A and B, as you started A, B is not the goal. It's not like it's important at some point, but the journey is where you live life. So when you say you're stuck in traffic, and I do this for myself when I'm stuck in traffic, I enjoy it. I put on music. I look outside at the beautiful landscape. I talk to a friend, but I'm not worrying about where I need to be, because
Mhm.
where I need to be is right here, right now.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
just changing that framing of your life, of it's not about getting from here to there. It's about what's in between.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such a spiritual perspective too, that you are exactly where you need to be. And what you were saying about time is also a lot of times I hear people saying, um, I never have time for anything. I'm always running out of time. There's never enough hours in the day to get everything done. Um, and it reminds me of this quote by the poet David White, who said that, I'm also going to paraphrase it, but it's something to the extent of, we think that time is slipping through our fingers, but it is really we who are slipping through the fingers of time. And
Mm,
that there's never a thing as not enough time. Time is it's a construct that
yeah,
we use to measure and to organize our day. But if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, does it really matter if we, I don't know, does it really matter if we're, late once, or does it really matter if we don't get something done and skip something in the grander scheme of things? There's no such thing as running out of time. Time is endless, it's
yes,
limitless.
yes, absolutely.
We're the ones that are
Uh,
limited.
exactly. I agree. And that's a great, I love that. And that's a great perspective. Um, so there's one formula for life that I really like to adopt on a daily basis is from this person entity named Bashar. And I'm not sure if you've heard of Bashar before,
I have.
but
Tell us
what
about.
he what he says is that the formula for life is to follow your greatest passions and excitement to the best of your ability until you can take it no further, and do it with integrity, with absolutely no insistence of the outcome.
Mhm.
So he talks about having a physical mind and a higher mind.
Mhm.
So people can say the higher mind is your godly soul. It can say it's a connection to God. It's a metaphysical mind, and we all have obviously a physical mind. The physical mind's job is only to experience reality as it is right now in this very moment. Has no other job. Has no other job. When our physical mind tries to predict the future, it can't. It has no ability to do that. What the higher mind can do, the higher mind is connected to all that is, to God, to endlessness, to timelessness. That knows where you should go and can predict the future. Not really predict, know what's the course of action that connects with you the most. And how does it communicate to your physical mind? Because it has to communicate somehow through passion, through excitement. And doesn't mean that you have to big things like changing your career or making big moves. It could be, but it also is just the very little things that happen in your life. It could be as small as like, do you want sushi or pizza for lunch? Like,
Mhm.
which one makes you a little bit more excited? So I say, oh, I want pizza, but I'm going to go to the pizza shop that I really like. And maybe you'll meet someone there. And
Mhm.
then you'll have a connection that if you connect to this, you never know. But so when we do that and we follow these small little excitements in our life and have no expectations, good things will happen from it. It will. But we
Mhm.
have free will. We have free will, so we can decide not to follow our heart and mind and go other ways, and we can fall into holes. And then your higher mind says, okay, you fell in a hole, we'll pick you up, dust you off. You ready to follow your highest excitement? If not, there's a lot more holes over here that you can fall into. It's your choice. It's your choice. So, and it's not about being people. When I tell this to people, they say, oh, they think it's about being hedonistic. It's not at all. It's not about just like, um, not caring about the world and just doing whatever feels right for you. It's with intention. It's the little things. And I noticed in my own life when I do that, I say, "Oh, I'm really excited about doing this right now." And I do it. Something always good comes out of it. Either it's a great experience that I had, it's a connection that I had with someone, I learned something that's going to carry me into something else. And going to that with no expectations is, you feel so much more calmer because you're not kind of trying to say, "Oh, I imagine it to be like that." And it's okay. It's okay to imagine what it might be like, but don't be attached to that. And that's what it means when in Eastern philosophy about attachment. It's also attachment to outcome. So
Mhm.
say, "Oh, that's interesting. That could be a possibility, but I'm not going to be attached to that. I'm just going to be in the moment, and whatever happens, it's going to happen."
Yeah, exactly. You can just recognize the expectations for what they are as imagination. The outcomes are imagination. Let's label it
Yes,
what it is. And I
exactly.
really resonate with what you're saying, Uri, about following the things that spark excitement and joy for you. Because I've also noticed in my life too, every single decision that I've made that I've been like just felt emotionally like excited about and magnetized towards has turned out very well. Um, and every decision that I kind of had to like convince myself that this is the right thing and ignore that little voice in that little like soul voice in my head that's like,
Mm,
actually, maybe this is not the right idea.
mm.
Every decision like that has actually not panned out that well. So,
Exactly.
you know, I was looking for a training to study psychedelic assisted therapy for a long
Hmm.
time. And and I just there were some trainings that I felt so excited about, but they were inaccessible for various reasons. And then there was this one training that was accessible, like on paper it checked up all the boxes. And I just something in me felt like, okay, but I just don't feel like this is the right training, even though I didn't have any good logical reason for why it wasn't the right training. And so
Mm.
I'm really glad that I said no to that training, because shortly afterwards, uh, the, I I found this other training that that was also like checked off all of the boxes, and it made me feel so excited. And
Mm.
I just started that training recently. and
Beautiful.
and every time that I go to a lecture, every time that we meet, I always feel like I'm just so grateful, and I feel like this is so I'm so glad that I said no to that other training, and really just followed my heart and followed my intuition that opened the doors for this training. And this is one example out of many such decisions. But I think, what you're saying also, it's not about being hedonistic. It's not about just, doing whatever you want and not holding yourself accountable. What you're
Mm.
talking about is following your intuitive path, but also in a way that's aligned with your values.
Yes.
So if it's not aligned, if it's something that's destructive, then something will feel not right about it. And that's also a voice to follow. So I don't think there's a contradiction.
Yeah, I agree. And it's great that you did that because you saw that something in you told you, and it wasn't, you said it wasn't logical. It
Yeah.
was, like people call it gut feeling, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
something's not right about that. I'm going to hold off on that. And, and there's a lot to be said about following your intuition. And a lot of people have a hard time following it because they're trusting their physical mind to know what's going on. And sometimes logic gets in the way. And sometimes it's not all about logic. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. And the big things, the passion things, like you just feel it. You feel what is good for you. You feel what resonates with you, where you connect with what, like you talked about, your values, and connecting with your values, and noticing that, and just being aware of the steps that you take in your life, um, that really resonate with your living your truth. And people will say, like, there's only one truth and it's the truth. There are universal truths, fine, but there's also personal truths. I experienced that when I decided to not be religious anymore, in the traditional Jewish way. I didn't grow up religious. I became religious very young, when I was like 22. My
Mhm.
whole marriage, I was religious. And then after the divorce, probably closer to the end of the marriage, it wasn't sitting with me in the right way. I wasn't connecting with all the Jewish laws. I wasn't connecting with things from a rule base, like you should do
Mhm.
this, you should do that. I wasn't connecting with it. So when I took myself out of it, I said, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing. I want to connect to God in my own way. I actually had a better connection with God than I did when I was religious. And
Mhm.
that's my personal journey. And I think that people that do connect with a higher power, with God through religion, and it really resonates with them, I think that's beautiful. And it's very individual. Our relationship with God is our relationship with God. It's how we connect. So I found that for me, that process of kind of finding myself, going through that journey of being religious, learning about my people, since I wasn't raised religious at all, um, and then knowing a lot about it really set me up for where I am today, where I took all that knowledge and I love the traditions. I obviously live here in Israel, and I love being around my people, and I love celebrating Shabbat and the holidays in my own way with my friends. Um, but I felt a sense of freedom from doing in the way that just it works for me.
Mhm. And this is your journey. As you were talking, I was thinking of what Rabbi Sachs, Jonathan Sachs, said about the difference between religion and spirituality. Is that spirituality is like dating and religion is like marriage, and sometimes they go together and sometimes they really don't. And I do relate to what you're saying though, because my family, I also didn't start off with the Jewish traditions. My family came from Russia, where there was no access to Jewish religion at all. And when we came to America, my family started getting more educated and more involved with the Jewish community. And because I was just a kid, I kind of went along with everything and found a lot of meaning, and was very interested in learning more in the Jewish traditions. And um, and then as time went on, like after a long time in my mid-20s, I was feeling kind of like I was feeling like Judaism was becoming insipid. I would, go to services and everything and just like say the prayers, but it would be very, very mechanical. And it was like the soul, I wasn't feeling the soul of Judaism. And I had to do a lot of soul searching and um, deep digging and letting go. And it was when I let go of some of the things that I was doing, um, that I was doing from a place of fear and anxiety, um, that that I was actually able to reconnect with the Judaism in a much more grounded kind of way and in a much more joyful way. So now everything that I do Jewishly, and I basically do like everything, um, everything traditional. It's very much besimcha. It's very much from a place of joy rather than from a place of anxiety and
Mhm.
fear. So so when you were describing, like, you finding your own path and learning what you can, and then teaching it and making it your own, and taking ownership over your experience with the Judaism, I really hope that that gives some inspiration to our listeners that, you can find your own path, and that real spirituality, yes, it can be beautifully combined with religious practices, and and you can also make it individual and make it your own, just like you're doing.
Exactly. It's just listen to your intuition of how you connect with it personally. Nobody can tell you what to do. Nobody. And maybe you can feel. Sometimes people feel pressure from the community, from their
Right.
family, and that's going to happen. But if you just look at it that that's their opinion, that's where they're coming from, that's their own stuff, has nothing to do with me. You carve your own path. And I think having connection with God is so important because it's the connection with God is a connection with everything. It's connection with yourself and
Mhm.
connection with just the entire universe. And you really see the the synchronicity between all living things,
Yeah.
and you realize that everyone's connected, everyone's together. So
Hmm.
first off, just like not judging yourself also for having these feelings. If you grew up religious and like, well, I don't want to be religious anymore, and then you start judging yourself and like, what if this, what if that, and the judgment. You don't need to judge yourself. And if you even if you say like, oh, but other people are judging me. Something that I learned recently was like other people aren't judging you. You're thinking that other people are judging you, and therefore that's your version of them thinking something about you. So you're actually really judging yourself.
Hmm. And
So it doesn't.
them for thinking that they're
Yeah.
judging you.
It's a mirror. Everyone putting up a mirror in front of any relationship you have. It can be a friendship. It can be a romantic relationship. It can be a relationship with your children, with your parents. It's all a mirror reflecting you.
Exactly.
And that's the most, especially with a with family, or with a romantic partner,
Hmm.
that a husband, a wife, they're really reflecting back what things that you need to work on in yourself. And
Hmm.
sometimes you don't like the reflection, but that's okay. Then at least you know, and you can work on that.
Yeah, it's true, and it's so not random. The partners that people choose are exactly the ones that will reflect the things that you need to work on. Um,
100%.
the yogis say that our whole experience of the world, it's everything is in our mind. Our whole perception of reality, it's all the story that we concoct in our mind, and we just project it out.
Hmm.
And the more that we can recognize that, the more we can be present and live in this mindful kind of way.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a really beautiful message. And as we start winding down for today, um, let me ask you where, first of all, where people can find you, how can they connect with you? If you could share a little bit about your offerings.
Sure. So right now you can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook. I'm on YouTube at just look up Uri Kelman. And I think I'm the only Uri Kelman in the world, as far as I know, at least on social media. So I'm not hard to find. And then feel free to reach out to me on any of those platforms if you want to send a message, if you have a question. Probably Instagram would probably be the best way to actually message me. And right now, I'm trying to get into the space of actually offering guided meditations to people. But if you want a guided meditation from me, reach out to me. We can work something out, and I would love to.
Okay, sounds good. And the information for all of that will be found in the show notes. So, Ori, is there anything that you want to end off with for today and like a takeaway message that you want listeners to hear, especially people who might be struggling with sleep or with anxiety or going through stress, burnout, hardship, and all kinds of, listeners from all over the world who are some are going through different kinds of challenges and situations, and some people just like Jewish guided meditations and yoga nidra practices.
Yes.
So, uh, is there anything that you want to say as a takeaway message?
Sure. I think whatever you're going through in your life right now, like any hardship you're going through, make sure to give yourself the time to sit with it. There's a lot to be said about sitting with your emotions because when we push down our emotions, it's just temporary. It's going to come back up, and it might come back up stronger. So when we actually say, I'm feeling this, I'm going to actually intentionally take time to sit with it, notice it, and hopefully learn from it. That's the pathway to healing that I find the most effective.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And it was really such an honor and a joy to have this conversation with you on this podcast. And thank you so much for just sharing your wisdom and your wise and grounded perspective. And I really, truly see you as a role model for many people, and myself included, of somebody who's really done their work, is in the process of doing their own work, and can really show up in this really present kind of way. So, really like practicing what you're preaching. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love having these kind of conversations. So thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast.
If you enjoyed this conversation with Uri Kelman, please do share with your friends and family, like, follow, and subscribe. You can look up the links for where to find Uri as well as myself in the show notes. And feel free to join the Nale Yoga community on WhatsApp or follow both of us on Instagram. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to meet you back here again soon for more meaningful conversations and guided Yoga Nidra practices.